Morning, good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to this exciting panel discussion, a timely convergence of ideas following last week's Consumer Electronics Show. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of 3D billboard advertising, a realm where creativity meets cutting-edge technology. And as we stand at the forefront of a new era in advertising, where the digital and the physical worlds blend seamlessly, our panel today brings together leading minds from London and Shanghai. These cities, known for their iconic skylines, are also at the forefront of revolutionizing outdoor advertising with their immersive 3D billboards. In this session, we will explore how the latest consumer technologies are reshaping the landscape of billboard advertising, from the streets of London, where historic charm meets modern innovation, to the bustling avenues of Shanghai, a nexus of technology and art. And our panelists today will share their insights and experiences. We're going to delve into how these billboards are not simply just adverts, but captivating stories told on grand scales. And as we progress through our discussions, we'll also look ahead, pondering the future of this rapidly evolving field and the next wave of innovations that will redefine our experience of the urban landscapes. Throughout this session, your thoughts and questions will be invaluable to the dialogue. So feel free to submit your questions into the live chat. And I'm really excited to embark on this journey together, discovering how the fusion of technology and creativity is painting our cities with the vibrant colours of innovation. So thanks for joining us, and I can't wait to kick off this exciting discussion. So before we start, I wanted to welcome Barry, Executive Creative Director from Shanghai, and Alex, Business Development Director in London, who builds client partnerships globally. So I'm going to start with my first question, and maybe we could start with you, Barry. There seems to be an increasing demand for 3D billboards at the moment. Why is that, and how does this reflect the advancements in technology?
I guess, 3D billboards, they're simply just an image being displayed at the correct perspective with a border. So they're nothing really new. It just seems to have kind of taken off. And obviously with tech these days, it now allows bigger resolution for them to be clearer than ever before. So it means, the viewer can have more immersion and the brands can have an opportunity to create a unique experience with these. Looking back at the first films that were created with these 3D billboards, are kind of static cameras, very predictable visuals, not much happening. It's quite slow. It's cool to witness because it was kind of new and it was quite kind of different as such. But the way it's evolving to try and keep it interesting is also kind of cool. Nowadays we're seeing so many more inventive ideas to give the audience a fresh experience. Take for example the MSG Sphere in Vegas. That's a new take on the 3D billboard, and it's everywhere on social. But really, it's the technology behind it that's allowed that to happen, and of course, the investors, because it wasn't cheap. For me, it's really. Obviously, people or creatives don't have endless holes in their pockets with lined with so much cash. So we really need to think as creatives how we can elevate the idea and how the tech can help with that. And that's pretty much the question that we get asked with any kind of brief is how do we make it different and unique?
That's great. And I think, just sort of moving on that topic of blending the creative and commercial, I think, Alex, what's your perspective on that, certainly from a business point of view?
For me, from biz dev perspective, ultimately, it is impressive. We can't deny we're in an attention-saturated world. When you see a big 3D dragon leaning over a screen, it's still able to make people stop and look, and that's ultimately successful. I think, particularly at the moment, we're seeing, as Barry mentioned, a lot more of these screens popping up. It feels like almost daily. And this is allowing more brands to be utilizing that media and therefore more experimentation with what does and doesn't work. And we can kind of define what success is out of that. I think it's important to remember that a lot of this technology that, we as a creative studio, we've probably been playing around with for years, is a little bit au fait to us. For a lot of consumers, it's the first time they might be seeing it and, seeing it on their doorstep, or for me, and I think for a lot of brands, more importantly, on their phone. So this is a big thing for this. A major factor is shareability. when you're finding this content that's pretty unique, still in an advertising landscape, it can look really impressive. So obviously social media, we can get this much larger audience. So we just get a lot more brand recognition out of that. And then consumer expectation, it's a major driving point in the popularity. As we're seeing like the MSG sphere, we're seeing Outernet, we're seeing all of these places popping up. Audiences are being exposed increasingly to more and more sophisticated and immersive forms of media. For me, 3D billboards, whilst maybe not entirely revolutionary, they are aligning with these expectations and really delivering a more impressive creative than what has been seen with traditional flat digital out of home.
Can you explain how current technology can be integrated with 3D billboards to change them from a linear narrative?
Obviously, we're seeing kind of almost like a peak in what people can do, and now they're looking at new and innovative ways to create obviously more spectacle around all of this. AR is where a lot of brands, a lot of companies are looking into with 3D billboards, and obviously integrating this with smartphones, expanding the borders from just what you see on the screen to having interactive physical elements in front of them, unlocking layers of animation and so forth. There's also geospatial tech, where potentially you've got billboards dynamically adjusting to the content based on the time of the day, weather conditions, things like that, to give a level of personalization for the local audience, potentially. I actually had an idea a few months ago when I was in front of a billboard, and I thought to myself, at that point, what I was seeing on the screen wasn't very legible. You couldn't see the detail or anything like that because it was so bright, the sun. And I think it's only a matter of time when people or whoever own these billboards have basically light meters next to the billboard, so the AI can automatically adjust the exposure of the content, so the viewer can have an optimum viewing throughout the day without any kind of human interaction or adjustment.
So would you say that's more of a geospatial type of innovation that we're talking about here then?
Well, I mean, depending on obviously the location, the demographics, if you've got, and obviously the screens themselves, when you're doing a 3D billboard, a lot of the time it's just for one screen. We've just done one for 3 different screens, but it's the same content, but done slightly differently. But you don't know, we're in China, so we've got 3 different screens across the country, one in the north, one kind of in the middle, we're in Shanghai, and then one kind of down in Guangzhou and down in the south. So, and it's a big country, obviously it's big, it's way bigger than Europe. So you imagine 3 different screens across the width of Europe. There's very different weather conditions, very different kind of lighting conditions throughout the day, but you're showing exactly the same imagery, exactly the same exposure. There should really be some kind of automated adjustment made so people can see this optimally wherever they are, and obviously the people running these screens don't have to interfere and adjust them themselves. This should be automated. I do believe that that's going to be where the AI kind of takes over in this realm particularly.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that obviously is a hot topic right now. Alex,
going back to sort of what I was saying to your last question, there's kind of 2 angles with the development of a 3D billboard, right? There is the physical version of it. There's the version that a person on the street might go and see, which needs to be, curated based on your sort of photogrammetry information to get the sweet spot to where that 3D effect is perfected. But realistically, 99% of your viewers, and we're a corporate entity, we're being paid, so the brand is interested in where that viewership is coming from. A lot of that's going to be coming from online. So I think this is where, and again, completely agreeing with Barry, a lot of the exciting things are coming from adding to that physical space. So obviously, we're talking, everyone knows about fake out of home and what's going on with that, which is its own interesting topic, but I think not entirely separated from what 3D billboards are. But 3D billboards have their own physical presence in the world, which is an important thing because it adds authenticity. So where we can add in augmented reality, we're turning static billboards into these dynamic and participatory experiences. So for me as well, something like real-time data feeds, it's not revolutionary technology, but it is incredibly interesting how you can display dynamic content, such as like a live social media feed that has a physical presence and is interacted to your phone. That becomes like a really exciting next step to where we are with our current content.
It's really exciting. And sticking with you, Alex, as well, and considering London's more recent projects like the Transformers Rise of the Beast, Bulgari, Holiday, what goes into making these projects hugely successful?
Firstly, I think I have to credit the artists. Ultimately, they're the ones spending the time, making it look perfect, thinking about the media space, what works in the different locations. For it to really land, not always, but I think often it needs to have a sense of physicality. Like I mentioned, a dragon, that needs to have a sense of gravity and, presence for it to really work. And that requires a huge amount of skill from the creative teams. That's what they're bringing. To your point with Rise of the Beast, Bulgari, they're both great examples because their success, at least in part, comes from that fact we work directly with the brand to discuss what the final creative would be. That's always going to be a fundamental point at bringing it to the best level it can be. A major factor of their success came with the time that we were allowed to develop the idea and work with the creative teams on the client side. And, whether that's building the world of Transformers or this sort of neoclassical environment of Bulgari's jewelry, success is more than something just leaning over a screen. Obviously 3D billboard, the thing people think of is it's something coming out of 3D space, but it's this depth and physicality that allows us to create a narrative that goes beyond the constraints of this sort of typical flat screen. We're fortunate, particularly with the mill, that we're in the Technicolor group. So with Rise of the Beast, our film team with MPC did the VFX for that film. So it was a wonderful, pipeline where we could utilize assets. And it sort of comes into it. I think it's an important point that we haven't really touched on yet. The 3D billboards, whilst impressive and shareable and very cool, it is an element of a wider campaign. It's a piece of a puzzle that can dial up other areas just in an exciting way. And that's what I think these two projects did very well that helped with their success.
Absolutely. And also a fantastic example of showing collaboration across our brands as well. So really good. Moving on to you, Barry, and let's talk about Shanghai's innovation. How did the Jordan billboard stand out and how was that different?
Well, it was probably, in my mind at least, I could be wrong here, but it's the first 3D billboard I've seen that has moved away from the tradition of having a static camera. The idea of Jordan was to do something fresh and do something brand new and that no one else has done before. So it was a 2D film, like an action-packed film, but with 3D kind of pop out of the screen moments that worked across both the 2D platform and 3D billboards. So we kind of moved across both mediums there. And obviously, as what Alex was saying, we need that to work across social as well, because that was a lot of the campaign. I mean, the biggest thing for us, and we had meetings about it prior to getting into the production side of things, is basically making sure we choose the right location for the screen. We had a list of all of the best screens in China. We looked at the options that were. I mean, the scale of the screens here are just immense. There was one that spans about 150 meters in width, which is insane, and it looks very impressive. But we didn't actually choose that one. My first choice was Chengdu, and that's luckily the one that we went for as well. And Jordan agreed with that, and we kind of went to check the screen out for the launch, and obviously the magnitude of the screen was pretty incredible. It wasn't as big as the one I mentioned, but it was still about 65 meters across, which is still pretty big. You couldn't move on the street because there were thousands of people, and I think that they were saying about 700,000 people per day that were in front of the screen. But I think on our first day, because there was some kind of public holiday or something going on, we had over 1.2 million people in front of the screen. on the first day of screening, which was huge. It's just an immense thing to be a part of. The idea itself stemmed from kind of a mental health kind of standpoint, and we kind of took that to try and be kind of dark and kind of sinister in a way, which when you create a normal 2D film is fine, because you're viewing this on a normal screen. But when we came to testing it, we kind of found out that kind of going too dark, obviously on an external screen, is not something that you should really. There's kind of levels, so we needed to kind of adjust that as we went through the testing kind of stage of making the film. But at the end, I mean, it was very well received. Luckily, I think getting the right exposure on that screen was kind of crucial for success on the ground. And again, going back to what Alex was saying, yes, I think social is very important, but I think you can't underestimate the power of people kind of posting themselves, because that is unique content that you can't generate. And I think that is such a huge element of any campaign success.
Absolutely. I think it's just seeing it in real life and actually capturing the audience's attention in real time. That's what really brings these billboards to life as well. So moving to the future as well, and following on from CES, what would you say are the anticipated future trends and tech innovations in the realm of 3D advertising?
It's a super exciting time. I mean, I've got a few things just off the back of CES, but then wider, kind of following from what we were talking about earlier. One big thing that I saw at CES, I think is really exciting, is these Samsung micro LED screens. These are essentially screens that look like a clear piece of glass, but importantly, they can hold content at a display resolution of like 4K, and they can be completely frameless. I know that retail spaces are already kind of playing around with this, but what it represents is the advancements that's going to make this, to my mind, likely to become more and more common, bringing these kind of new media spaces, new ways of doing it. As we said at the very start, this proliferation of what we're doing with it leads to new creative ideas, new successes. That's super exciting. I think augmented reality, Barry said, obviously we're playing around with it already, but those kind of advanced areas where we're going with it, the evolution of AR is likely to bring these kind of more seamless experiences to things like 3D billboards. So object recognition, better tracking, more interactive elements, all of these sort of things. As I keep saying, anything that can provide viewers with these more immersive, more personalized engagements is going to be, fundamental to where these are going. Now, this, I'm not 100%. I know it's a bit of a trend, but like virtual reality, VR, will it, won't it? Who knows? I know Apple have got their thing coming out, but it's not going away. And it is becoming slowly, but more accessible, more widely adopted. People are perhaps looking more now around MR, mixed reality. So where you can kind of be incorporating virtual reality experiences with kind of 3D spaces. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do think that's an exciting area. And then finally, for me, I think, it doesn't necessarily factor into the creative element that the mill's working on, but the energy efficient and sustainable designs of these screens it needs to be done and is being explored. And, if we can incorporate sustainable materials, energy efficient technology, solar panels, kinetic energy harvesting, this is going to be, useful for everyone at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue to you, Barry, sort of on the creative side.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say I had a couple of those down already on my list, actually. But I think talking on the Samsung micro LED, I mean, it just gets you thinking about what's possible, because right now, obviously, all the screens are attached to a building. Imagine something that's not, and it's almost like a holographic display as such. And it's obviously poised to become kind of, I guess, more sophisticated as, with obviously technology has advanced so much in recent years, and I can't imagine where we'll be in a couple of years' time from now. But I got a feeling that things are going to be more accessible and a little bit more surprising in some areas as well. And I think that we can really create something like the 3D billboards, but something immersive. You imagine like this, like those micro screens kind of stuck together, or a huge area which is, kind of hung in the middle of two buildings. So you just think it's the sky, and all of a sudden something kind of comes out of nowhere. It can be quite impressive. I was just thinking about that the other day because I actually saw a video on Instagram about something which I'm pretty sure is fake. You can't tell these days, but I think in a couple of years it will be a reality, and you'll be able to do something as impressive as that. And it will be, it will be. I'm not sure where 3D billboards themselves, as we know them today, will be at that point. Maybe they'll be more boring, whereas now they're kind of super exciting. I kind of feel like we're hitting the peak there, but yeah, it could be quite an interesting evolution. I also think that, again, it's not on the social side. I kind of feel like getting people involved about kind of almost having kind of an interactive, I guess, gestural control, where people are more likely to play kind of a significant role when they're in front of these screens. I've seen so many people just kind of staring at the screens for a long time, and getting interactions with these, maybe using hand gestures or body movements. You see them with, the Xbox thing, and obviously all these little consoles at home. I can imagine that taking over in kind of like the 3D billboard range, like what Alex was saying, with a mixed reality or something like that. Something that kind of connects everything together, and potentially having, on the opposite side of that, cameras and everything looking at the people who are interacting, and actually kind of having, I guess, tracking devices or something becoming more sophisticated that they can, I guess, get audience analytics, so the advertisers know a little bit more accurate information for the people in front, and what works, what doesn't work, the attention spans, engagement levels. So I guess it helps to refine future campaigns, and that's probably something that will end up being sold with the package of buying screen time on said screens at different venues. I think maybe kind of biometrics might play a part in what I just mentioned as well, in terms of the sensors, which could obviously help the analytics understand viewer emotions, and maybe some point in the distant future there may well be some kind of, I guess, adjustable parameters of the films that have been played that kind of respond in real time to people's emotions. So it kind of creates a little bit more personal and emotional kind of connection with the experience that they're having, I guess. I mean, that's
fun to be alive, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. As we talk about the proliferation of mixed media, and obviously a lot of innovative strategies that are top of mind for us, how do evolving audience expectations for spectacle influence the future of engagement in 3D billboard advertising?
I think everyone here at the Mill, we're acutely aware that 3D billboards are the tip of the iceberg. They are reflective of this wider cultural shift as we're looking at these more immersive spaces, new ways of telling stories. What we're seeing 3D billboards being an example of is media space that is blurring the lines between entertainment and advertising. All of these shifts with expectations is resulting in these unique installations where you're seeing this blend of art, technology, and advertising in novel ways, allowing us to tell novel stories. And I think for me, this is what it comes down to. People appreciate advertisement that can entertain. I think really it's worth remembering as well, 3D billboards are a tool. At the Mill, we develop, we use, we build these tools to make the best possible creative solutions. As we see new technology, media spaces continue to evolve, we continue to push what's possible within them. And though the tools and the spaces seem to be changing almost daily at the moment, ultimately nothing really has changed. It's still and always will be about making beautiful and interesting work.
How exciting. And I'm afraid I think that's all we've got time for today. So Alex, Barry, huge thank you for joining us, and huge thank you for everyone who's tuned in online. We hope you found this session insightful and engaging. And just remember, this is the first in our exciting series. Next time, we'll be spotlighting our innovative 3D billboards from New York and Los Angeles. So stay tuned for another deep dive into creativity and innovation. So until then, keep exploring new horizons. Thank you.